A nudnik, a real bum.
The bad clowns freak him out.
This is the theme song of the podcast of the movie of the uncle of the nephew who's a dreamer and you cannot keep a job. We watch the movie by the minute and we talk about what's in it, but we want it to be different, so we added 2 more seconds. It's UHF 62.
60 second, UHF 60 second.
I know.
Welcome back to UHF 60 second. This is David, one of your hosts. I am joined by... Wait. Is there anybody else here?
Yes, Jonathan Carlisle is here. I'm not sure where, but he's here.
Yeah, you're here. And we've got... Who else is here?
David?
Oh, yes. Tom.
Jonathan?
We've got Tom Fay. Thank
Hey!
you for coming back.
What's up?
I had a weird thing there where I'm joined by you guys, right?
Correct.
My brain was screaming at me to say that I was joined with you, but I don't think I'm joined with you. I'm joined by you.
Holy matrimony, or
Well,
Hopefully not. All right. I forgot to. All right. You guys listening and gals listening, and this is a podcast, and this podcast is about Weird Al's 1989 movie UHF. And this episode is about minute 14. This minute begins with the Metropolitan pulling up towards the camera. And this minute ends with the disembodied voice proclaiming that he is Mr. Ed. I like Terry's keyboard brooch on her jacket.
me too. Is it a brooch or a pin?
Jonathan, give us your definition of brooch.
And spell it.
I think it's when you're getting closer to somebody and you're approaching them.
Now, brooch obviously is from the brioche, which is a French bread, right?
Can I go kind of like on a side note real quick?
Please.
One time I was at the zoo and I was looking at all the animals and stuff like that. And I came across this cage. It was kind of like a pet carrier or just like a small cage. And in it was a brooch. Brioche. How do you say it?
Brioche, I think.
Brioche, that's right. In a little cage. So I asked the zookeeper, and he explains to me it's bred in captivity.
Oh, man.
Thank you. Anyway.
Was that a visual joke? I feel like I totally missed out on that
Bred
one.
in captivity.
Give it to us one more time, Tom. Just for effect.
Okay. Bred in captivity.
Nice. I love it.
So anyway, that car is cool. And it's something that I notice a lot in movies and TV shows, that the character drives what is supposed to be like a lame car or like a just like dorky car or something like that. But it's cool.
Yeah, that's interesting. That is kind of I would say that's almost like a trope where people always have like a crap, like a AMC Gremlin or like a VW microbus, like
or
weird...
like Mr. Bean's car with
Yeah.
the 3 wheels.
Yeah.
It's like, what a dork. But then it's like, well, that's a pretty cool car.
Yeah, and those are not, you don't just like come by a Metropolitan Nash or what have you. I feel like that's an interesting thing that, it's meant to be like an oddball, quirky car, but it's a nice
cool.
car. So they disembark from the Nash. They move up towards the station, which is even better than he imagined.
I agree.
So what did he imagine? Because he's supposed to have this great imagination.
That's true.
Yeah.
But
Okay,
go
so
ahead.
looking at this building, it's a tiny, tiny building out in the middle of nowhere. It's a TV station, but I'm not saying that they don't have anything, but they've got a loading dock there with a bunch of pallets there. Like what? There must be something, I guess. But what is a TV station getting on pallets? Are they actually building sets and getting materials, that kind of thing, or?
Well, I imagine that it is like a old something else turned into a TV station. Where I live, there's a building that reminds me very much of this UHF station. And it looks like it used to be a restaurant, and at one point was like a car shop. And it has a loading dock very similar to that.
I have to say that I do like when buildings are repurposed from their original purpose. Who knows what this was originally used for? But as far as the pallets, Jonathan, to your question about the pallets, I gotta believe that Philo is getting shipments of all kinds of stuff at all hours, all the time. And those
Chemicals.
are,
Yeah.
I forgot about that guy.
Vats of liquids.
Well, we don't know about him really yet.
Yeah,
so
we haven't really.
Yeah. I wish that there were action figures for this movie, and like there was a play set, like the UHF, Channel 62 station play set. That's why that loading dock seems to be there, just for when they made the action figures and toys and play set. Then there would be like some kind of like a van that you could put all the George Newman and Terry in, so that they could like bust out of the play set door. You could open that door on the playset, and the George Newman mobile or the UHF 62 mobile would come out of there with all the action figures in there, and they could go on an adventure. That's the only reason, in my mind, that there's like a loading dock door there.
What would that be? The UHF action mobile?
Like maybe it would just be like a really big Nash Metropolitan that you could fit all the action figures in. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully it wouldn't be a big empty box. But
have you guys ever felt like a place is more friendly or less friendly based on the status of the door?
No. In fact, if the door was open, I don't know if I'd assume that the place was any friendlier than if it wasn't.
I might just think it's abandoned.
In fact, I remember watching this movie and not really thinking too much about it. Even though in a few minutes, or in a minute or two, we meet Philo, who's clearly there and airing something on TV. When I see the building, I just assume that it's abandoned. Like, who's running it up until George gets there?
In the morning, we're going to meet some other regulars or mainstays at the station, and they're going to speak to that a little bit as far as like who has been running things. We don't know if it's abandoned, and we don't know who's running it. I guess somebody must have been running it because somebody's reporting back that it is on the edge of bankruptcy, and has been for years.
I get some notes on the center doorknob.
Oh, good. I tried looking that up and could not find much information on center doorknobs.
I used to play bass for centered doorknobs.
I gather that it's like it's kind of like an old European design, possibly French, maybe even. The current models are just like a single latch. So if you were to put a center doorknob on, and you can, then you really. The typical latch that goes on the doorknob, you can just get extension pieces for that to get to the center. Some people on the internet seem to think that maybe this is a carryover from just very old door locks that would actually latch on both sides. So they put the knob in the center because it's equidistant from both sides, and you twist that and both come in. You can open the door. But with just modern door swings and stuff like that, everything just latches on one side now. So it's impractical, where at one point it may have been practical.
Well, I've never really put any thought into it, but except for just that aesthetically, I like it. So I think we're all in agreement on that. I believe.
Have you guys ever seen one in real life?
A center doorknob? No, I've not.
Me neither.
Vance Colvig Jr. Hey, mister! He was born March 9th, 1918. He died in March 3rd. 1991, so just a couple years after this movie. He was age 72 when he died. He's another one of our elite cast members who was married for a long time. He was married to Virginia G. Arslane. They were married from August 12th, 1955 to March 3rd, 1991, which means that, he died and then they weren't married anymore. He is a junior, so his dad was the senior, and his dad was the original Bozo the Clown, before it was all licensed and commercialized and stuff like that. Pinto Colvig. So I'm not sure how that's a junior, unless Pinto was his stage name. If you look through his IMDb, he, especially in his later years, he played like Bum, he played Old Man. He was pretty typecast, but I think he played it pretty well. In Big Top Pee-wee, which is, in my ranking, is the third best Pee-wee movie, he played Clowny. And back in the day, on the Yogi Bear show, he did the voice of Chopper the dog. Does anybody have any controversial thoughts on Big Top Pee-wee?
I don't know Big Top Pee-wee that well. I'm a big fan of Pee-wee's Big Adventure, but...
What about Pee-wee's Big Holiday, the more recent movie?
Oh, yeah.
David, where do you stand on Pee-wee's movies?
I have to admit that I'm a pretty big fan of Pee-wee's Playhouse, and there was something about the movies that were off-putting to me. I've probably seen each one only once, and the new one never.
I have more notes about Pinto, including Bozo, which you mentioned. Did you guys watch Bozo as a kid? Any
Yes.
form of it?
Oh, yeah.
I
Absolutely.
watched it, and I was too young to know what version it was. I didn't know there was more than one, but I watched the heck out of Bozo when I was a little kid. The cup toss, or the game where they had to toss the ball in the cup. Oh,
That was
my
always
gosh.
that was like the get off your seat one, wasn't it? It was like the first thing they always had to do.
Yeah, I remember practicing it at home, pretending to do it in front of like nothing while I watched it. I was obsessed with that game.
Pretending to do it in front of nothing.
I used to do that quite a bit. I think I've told David before that when me and my cousin used to watch The Sandlot, in that scene where he's getting chased by the dog, we would get up and pretend we were also being chased by a dog. We were pretty cool.
We're pretty
Let me
cool.
brag.
Oh, man.
Also on Pinto, did the voice of Grumpy and Sleepy, and not only did he do Goofy,
Are
No.
you talking about Pinto or are you talking about Vance?
Yeah,
You talking about
Pinto.
the senior or the junior?
Senior.
Pinto? All right.
Senior did Goofy and Pluto,
Goofy, like the
along
Goofy
with
Goofy?
Sleepy and Grumpy.
Oh, you're talking about, okay. You're talking about the dwarfs.
Wait,
No. But also Pluto and Goofy, like Mickey's Goofy, right?
Oh,
right.
did he do the scream when Goofy falls down the avalanches and stuff like that all the time? The wahoo!
I don't know.
Oh,
I hope
because
so.
that was my favorite thing when I was a kid.
Oh, my favorite thing was when Goofy would go, "Huh?" In fact, do you guys know what 4-H is? No?
Enlighten us.
4-H is like agriculture, and the H's all stand for something, like health, heart,
Harvest, I don't know. Yeah.
harvest, Harvey, the Wonder Hamster.
Harvest.
But
Yeah,
where I grew up,
Harvey.
4-H was a big part of my high school and just school in general, and I've got nothing against it. But the common joke was that what 4-H stands for is Goofy.
We've now alienated any of our audience that were. I don't even know how to say it. If the H is silent, it's just 4.
Yep.
Forces.
I learned about him from a Leonard Maltin video. You guys like Leonard Maltin?
Sure.
I told David earlier that I went a real deep rabbit hole on Leonard Maltin. And then when I got to the end of it, I was like, why am I looking up Leonard Maltin?
I don't know either.
So,
Going back to Vance, the Junior Vance. One credit that stuck out to me that was super cool was that he was in Barfly, which is the Mickey Rourke vehicle about Charles Bukowski, and I thought that was super awesome that he was in that.
even cooler, in the music video for Just a Gigolo, David Lee Roth. You guys know that?
He was in
I
that?
didn't.
He dresses up like a woman in it.
Speaking of going down rabbit holes of people that aren't in this movie, though, I thought it was pretty interesting. On the commentary, Weird Al mentions that somebody that they had come in to potentially play the part of the bum that Vance ended up doing was Tracy Walter, who was in movies like Repo Man, and he was also Bob the Goon in Tim Burton's original Batman movie, which is pretty cool.
This $1 gag is one of my favorites.
Oh, it's great.
And he counts to $1 really quick. Again, watching movies as you grow up, sometimes you take things for granted or you think different things. But he counts it so quick that I think part of my brain understood the joke that he's making change for the dollar. At the same time, he does it so quick, and the first thing he says is 85, 95, $1. Some weird part of my brain thought that he was just making Like he already had change, and he was just trying to get up to $1, and then gave him. It doesn't make sense, but
Yeah, I don't know.
I had a note that I had to scribble out because I, as I was thinking about this change gag critically, I was
As
like,
one does.
yeah, as one does. I was like, God, who walks around with a pocket full, like an entire dollar's worth of change in their pocket? Nobody does that anymore. But then I realized that this is in 1989 and nobody has cell phones and there's payphones and things like that. So
You hear this? That's over $1 of change I just pulled out of my pocket.
oh my gosh.
At least $2.
Why?
Well, it's not common, but something came up over the weekend where I didn't have my wallet and I had to dig a bunch of change out of my car.
Wait. Ladies and gentlemen at home, let this be known that this is we're recording this. This is a little peek behind the curtain. We're recording this on a Monday. So
Yeah, so what? I'm wearing the same pants I wore on Saturday. And I haven't washed them. Big whoop. Anyway. Yeah, the change gag is so funny. And Weird Al's... How do you guys refer to him? As Weird Al or George or what?
we go back and forth, but his name is
Let's say
George in the
George.
movie.
George's eyes open so wide for like 1 second. And it's just like that gag from the last minute with the whoosh sound where it's just a small thing, but it's so funny.
where are you talking about that his eyes open that
He holds his hand out with the change, and then
Oh yes, okay, at the end of the change. Okay, yeah.
when he realizes that the guy's just making change for $1, his eyes just open so wide for just like 1 second. Like, what?
Yeah.
It's so funny to me.
I thought you're going back to the swipe sound effect from the previous minute. I thought that what you were going to bring up when we were talking about that was when George goes in the door and then goes through the doorway, and then he grabs Terry, and Terry kind of does that little hop jump into the building after George is kind of would have been. I feel like that they could have accented that a little bit more with the sound effect, but didn't. But it seems like they were trying to kind of do one of those like a lunge thing, when somebody pulls somebody through something and they kind of like lunge forward, but she doesn't. She kind of does like a little hop, skip, jump thingy that's a little bit more dainty than like a being pulled through.
Dainty.
It's kind of a dainty movement, I think.
Yeah, dainty's just a funny word.
That's a French. Is that French? I don't know if that might not be French.
I would have liked to see her
French.
do that the Indiana Jones hop from the temple, like jumping through the doorway.
Yeah, that would have been good. But yeah, I think I'm building my case that Uncle Harvey is her uncle here, and she knows.
I think you
what
are building
her-
that case, yes.
Yeah, she knows what her uncle is capable of, and so she is maybe a little fearful. Obviously, regardless of if she's if Uncle Harvey is her uncle or if Uncle Harvey is George's uncle, we know that Uncle Harvey doesn't like George, and she knows her uncle well, and she knows what he's capable of, and that he kind of has mob affiliations and stuff, and so she's a little, her trepidation at going into the station, I think, is because she thinks that her uncle might be having George knocked off or eliminated.
Whacked.
Whacked. Fitted for a cement overcoat, because to get him, he doesn't want George dating his niece.
I think George one time joined their poker game and just completely ruined the whole thing.
Had beginner's luck and won.
Oh.
Like maybe that's how he won the Metropolitan. Actually,
Oh man, Harvey's so mad about that.
Maybe she's had previous boyfriends taken out by the mob before.
yeah, maybe that's why she went for George, because she's like, this guy works at a burger place.
Yeah.
He's not a threat like Uncle
Too
Harvey's.
stupid.
Yeah, this guy's gonna fly under the radar. He's practically a idiot.
My next notes are all about the very end of the minute, Mr. Ed.
Yeah, let's do it.
But we we hear more of the theme song. Actually, we hear like the entire theme song in the next minute. So I just wanted to focus our notes today on what we actually hear, which is 1, the voice of Mr. Ed, and 2, the beginning of the theme song and a little bit of the singing. So, hello, I'm Mr. Ed. The voice was Alan Lane, who grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So that was really my only note.
Oh, really? Nice.
Back in those days, everybody was doing Westerns. So he's Alan, quote-unquote, Rocky Lane. And he did Westerns, did voices for things. The guy who sings the song, Jay Livingston, and some other guy, Ray Evans, they wrote the theme. Jay sings it. That's really about all my notes for that. But just real quick, Mr. Ed, I think I'm going to save those notes, actually, for the next minute. Talk about the Ed himself.
Mr. Ed was a horse, is that right?
Of course.
Of course.
That's one that I never watched.
I watched it. I mean, I was familiar with it, but I didn't like it. It wasn't like Mr. Ed's
I
on.
didn't like it.
It's one of those like it was in between other shows or whatever. But I don't
Same
specifically remember any episodes. I understand who Mr. Ed is, and I understand that.
That was a very profound statement.
I know who Mr. Ed is.
You said I understand who he is. Nobody really gets Mr. Ed except for me.
Oh, but the show, Mr. Ed, well, they had a couple different pilots that they didn't end up using. The show proper, I guess, it was from 1961 to 1966.
Yeah, 61 to 66.
That's a long time, actually.
Long time.
Was it all in black and white?
I think so.
I remember it in black and white, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, my memory of it, of watching it, things are in color. I meant the show was black and white.
Yeah, that one just never was like... I'd watch Green Acres.
Dobie
Beverly
Gillis.
Hillbillies. Huh?
Dobie Gillis?
No.
No, not Dobie Gillis. Okay. So, let's see. We've thrown shade against, or shots fired against Mr. Ed and against PetSmart so far. Who else is on our hit list? So you're saving all the rest of your Mr. Ed?
Yes, we'll hear so much more about Mr. Ed in the next episode.
I can't wait.
Join us for our documentary about a horse who had a voice, but no one listened to him. I am Mr. Ed. I don't know what I'm doing.
Let me be your home.
That was not in my notes. A sad life. Mr. Ed. I have it.
I said, baby, 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 baby,
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, that's a good ending, but we didn't really. That's super not a sign off at all.
We could do a sign off and just cut it in.
Tom, do you want to sign off?
Sure. You've been listening to UHF 60 seconds.
Awesome.
Is that all right?
It works as much as anything else we've done.
All right.